symbiosis. And now, today, mitochondria are specialized as the centers for energy metabolism. It's where oxygen is used to burn sugar effectively and get energy out of it.
So it's that kind of chemistry going that far back that accounts for our genetic similarity to life forms that are nothing like us. Like we're something like 25% identical genes to a banana.
Yes. All eukaryotes came out of that.
Yes.
Out of that symbiosis.
Okay.
And so you can think of this as an ancient organelle that's now specialized. And because it's a center for oxygen usage, it can create what are called free radicals or reactive oxygen species, because these are partially reduced oxygen atoms which are chemically very reactive. So you can have a lot of damage.
To be clear, if it's fully reduced, that means all the oxygen is where
it becomes water.
And then you can't, there's nothing else that can
Carbon dioxide and water is what you get.
Yes, it's fully, partially.
Soon enough, I reinvent the wheel.
It's activation to do things.
And it does
the
damage.
wheel.
Yeah. And so it can cause damage. And mitochondria have preserved a little bit of their own genome. They used to have a much larger
It would be
bacteria. But now,
highly inspired by the rolling dice.
13 protein genes.
Reinventing
They're
the wheel.
essential for the function of mitochondria. And the mechanism to replicate that DNA, to copy that DNA as mitochondria divide, it's not as accurate as the mechanism for our own DNA replication. The more errors creep in. And so mitochondrial aging is a big problem with our aging.
Is that a single point of failure in terms of
It's
the
not a
aging?
single point. I think aging,
Blame it on mitochondria.
Yeah. Someone might have blamed.
Like aging is like a cascade failure.
But I do like to say that the reason my grandson has a lot more energy than I do is because he has much better mitochondria.
Right. Something's going on with the mitochondria for your skin, because your skin's perfect. I don't know how old you are, but clearly I look at your hair and I'm like, okay, this guy's old. But but I look at your skin, I'm like, but he stole his skin off of a teenager.
I thought black don't crack.
That's true, black don't crack.
And that
I think you're absolutely right.
It does make a difference.
It's the dark skin.
It's the dark skin.
Yeah, it's just melanin.
Yeah, that's just melanin.
At the end of the day.
Okay.
So this reduced chemistry that makes it chemically active, that could not have been useful before Earth's atmosphere became oxygen rich.
That's right.
And that happened because of the cyano what?
Yeah. So cyanobacteria basically turned a carbon dioxide atmosphere into one that had the presence of oxygen. And then anything that needs oxygen can thrive. Can now thrive, but it couldn't before then. So that helps age date, or time date, I should say.
It's about 2 million years.
That helps time date these activities.
Yeah.
That's the watershed moment. Oh, very good.
Yeah,
Welcome watershed.
I like that. That was good.
So there's something called senescent cells where they age and
It's
they
like
create these sort of
120 years old.
Senescent cells.
I'm 50 right now,
I said you
and
have aging
getting
at
better in
the
my
level.
anthropology.
Aging at a
Big
cellular
fucking deal.
level.
But I have a hypothesis, I have
And senescence
a
is
special
interesting.
ideology
It may
that
have
say that
evolved
doesn't compare really with
as an
others.
anti-cancer mechanism or as a
So
mechanism
obviously,
to get rid of
there's
cells.
fingers pointed at any alternative thinking on aging.
It has a
May we live
number of
forever.
enzymes.
There's a metal band that sells it pretty freaking
But if
well.
the
I mean,
damage is
I can never die.
extensive,
This life is
then
mine
it
forever.
triggers pathways
But they have
that kill
scientific
cells,
empirical like
suicide,
arguments, and
or to
you
send
better
it
pay
into a
attention to
state
them.
called
Scientific
senescence.
empirical
That can
arguments
also happen
are usually very
due
well
to other kinds of
grounded.
stresses. And what senescent cells
It's not
do is
like
they no
you've
longer
been
function
neglecting
normally,
it,
and they
ignore
no
it,
longer divide.
and recklessly walked into uncharted. I mean, I know, right? You've been telling me so freaking many times. Paying attention to their perspective again. Their method of transmitting, how skeptical they are of alternate ideology is their way of doing so, but they're entitled to it. Yeah.
But later in life, you get too many of these events. Build-up of senescent cells, systemic inflammation, which causes organ damage, more senescence, and so it's a big problem.
Wow. Yeah, and that's why you see so many medical reports now that talk about the dangers of inflammation.
Absolutely.
Totally. Like, it doesn't make a difference what kind of inflammation. The idea is to eliminate inflammation as much as you can. No matter
I
what.
assimilate the smoke and the molecules that it contains, mostly in my cheeks and around my ear there. So there's like a probability that there ain't that much smoke reaching my lung the way I smoke now.
That was created as a reaction to the virus itself. Cytokine. Please explain. Cytokines are, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, can you answer that? Yeah, because I'm not an expert. That was a lot. But yeah, it's, the cytokines was released when we respond to what our body thinks is an attack on us. And
sometimes it can only go to overdrive.
it goes in overdrive. Yeah.
Are we anywhere
They're
close to
freaking well
being able
paid.
to- or is this the epigenetics thing where we can deal with these senescent cells?
No, but there is
Any Canadians on craving on your vacation?
which is cellular reprogramming.
Oh, yeah. That's
Hot
so
craving on the
To
beach.
explain that, if you start from a
Anyway,
single
poor little thing.
fertilized egg, it divides into many cells, becomes something called a blastula,
Not
and
moving my
then or
thoughts
blastocyst,
any
and
further.
then it divides further and further, and then forms specialized stem cells, and each of those specialized stem cells give rise to certain kinds of tissues.
Yes, right.
Okay, so some stem cells will only
They are
generate cells in
proto-neurons,
the
from my
blood
perspective.
system, right?
They exclusively
White blood
renew the
cells,
nervous
red
system.
blood cells, and so on. That used to be thought of as unidirectional. You can't go backwards. You can't go back from a skin cell back to a fertilized egg or an early embryo.
It's even worse.
But that turned out
They're just
not to be
sunshine.
true. Okay. And actually, it was done in a natural way when Dolly the sheep was cloned, but actually even earlier when John Gurdon cloned the skin cell of a frog and cloned animal from it. Wow. And that meant that somehow marks on the
C'est plus
DNA
clair.
had been erased or changed.
Just historically, that completely changed the public dialogue about our source of stem cells.
Right.
Because we only were getting them from aborted
From
fetuses.
blood, yeah.
From fetuses.
From
Right.
fetuses.
Yeah.
And so that was a complicated ethical issue for many people.
Right.
And then once that blew open that whole field.
Right. Well, that wasn't Gurdon and Dolly the sheep and others, but it was actually Shinya Yamanaka, a Japanese scientist, who showed that if you were to introduce just 4 factors, these are genes for proteins that regulate other genes.
Gotcha.
If you were able to introduce those 4 factors, you could take a
The
fully
venue,
differentiated
the,
cell,
the,
like a
the
skin cell,
theater venue
a
smell
heart
like
cell,
you.
a heart cell, and you could make it go backwards in development all the way back to what's called a pluripotent stem
Yeah.
cell.
Staying home.
Pluripotent means it can make any tissue. And so that eliminated the need for what you said.
Did
which
he
is
not win a Nobel for that as well?
He better had.
Yeah.
He and John Gurdon shared a Nobel Prize. And here's an interesting thing. John Gurdon's
Mortal
paper
Kombat
for
2.
which he won the Nobel
Mortal Kombat
Prize
2.
was published
Ah,
in
yeah.
Shinya
Yeah,
Yamanaka
that's
was born.
great.
No.
Yeah.
That's how far apart they are in age.
And,
So
and all
John
that
Cage.
time, all that work, and then he just comes along and takes credit for it. Look at that. Look at that.
It's had sort of variations
I'm sure
of
Johnny
this
Cage.
with David Sinclair, who had a guest as a guest.
That's immortal, like that thing that is a bit more proactive. Not the one that is mostly shielding, attempt at invisible.
You could have to go there. And turn them into science, cure their blindness.
While I'm invisible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if
Mortal
that's the
Kombat.
case, how far are we from...
I would say it's early days.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you that I'm aware that this has happened, but then my question is just the distance between this and doing other things on a grander scale. Mice are one thing, larger primates.
Around my
and
glasses, that was
curing
very
blindness.
interesting for a moment.
It's a little further down the line, is what you're saying. It's a little
Anyway,
But the idea is...
I could never die.
Would you say we
This
now
life is
have
mine forever.
Not a blue